Hey, it's Wilson, and as a wedding photographer for the past 9 years, I've had my fair share of lenses. From using lenses that were only $100 to lenses all the way in the range of 2,000 plus. Today, I'm going to go over 7 things that you should consider when you're looking for a new lens. First, you need to decide what you're going to shoot. Is it portraits or landscapes? Maybe you're into architecture, or perhaps you want to do macro photography. Picking the right tool for the job is important. Next, you're going to have to decide on a budget. Lenses can be very expensive, but these days there are many options out there to choose from. If you're shooting macros or landscapes, you may want to consider a lens that's manual focus only to save some money. If you're like most people though, you probably want a lens with autofocus. When buying a lens, you can go with name brand, which is the same brand as the camera manufacturer, or you can go with a third-party brand. Going for the name brand is always the safest bet, but there are some third-party manufacturers out there that really give the name brands a run for their money. Here are the major third-party brands with autofocus that you should consider, in order from cheapest to most expensive. They are Viltrox, Tokina, Tamron, and Sigma. You may also want to consider the premium brand Zeiss if you shoot Sony or Fuji. Buying new is always a safe bet because buying new comes with a warranty. If you're going used, I'd recommend checking out eBay because eBay offers buyer protection. Plus, you can find some pretty good deals off some sellers from Japan. Japanese sellers will often tell you that lenses are in much worse shape than they actually are. I bought a lens from a Japanese seller once that was marked in fair condition, but when I got it, it looked basically brand new. You'll often see letters after lenses like IS, VR, OS, etc. What does that all mean? Well, a lot of it is just explaining proprietary technologies, but there are 2 features that you should look out for. The first set of letters is some sort of image stabilization. While having an image stabilized lens isn't necessary, it does allow you to use a slower shutter speed and prevent handshake in photos and video. Depending on the brand, image stabilization can show up as IS, VR, OS, or any variations of the aforementioned. Each brand will use its own naming scheme, but they're all essentially the same thing. Here's some examples of VR on and off. I used a super slow shutter speed for the photo to emphasize the difference, since this photo was taken in the daytime. VR really comes in handy for night photos. The second thing you should look out for is if the lens offers silent focusing. This isn't always listed in the lens name, so you may have to read the product description. Silent focusing is handy when shooting things like animal or video, because you don't always want to hear the robotic sound of the lens focusing. To some people, size and weight doesn't matter, but to other people it does. If you're looking for something for travel photography, you may want to consider something that's lighter versus something that's going to sit on a tripod like for landscapes. For me as a wedding photographer, I'm going to be carrying around these lenses all day, so I actually tend to lean towards lenses that are lighter, even if they sacrifice a little bit of performance. Speaking of which, when we're talking about lens performance, we really want to focus on 2 things, and that is sharpness and autofocus speed. To be honest, these days, lens technology has advanced so much that any modern lens should be able to do the trick for you. And when I say modern, I really mean any pro-level lens from say 1990 and up, or any regular lens from the last 5 or 10 years. The fact is, most people won't be zooming into your photos 100% to see if the corners are sharp. And for things like video, sharpness matters even less because most videos are actually shot and viewed at 1080p. Even up to 4K, it's still too low of a resolution to be able to tell the lens sharpness. With autofocus, any lens that has come out in the past 5 years or so are generally going to do the trick because autofocus is primarily dependent on the camera body. Although, with that being said, name brand lenses are always a safe choice. So for example, let's say you have a Sony camera. Getting a Sony lens will guarantee the best autofocus, though that is not to say if you have a third-party lens, that the autofocus might not be just as good. Lastly, before buying your lens, you should check out some reviews. I like to start my lens research by browsing B&H's website. They're the world's largest camera store. You don't have to buy from them, but they do have the largest selection and their website is really well designed. You can sort by user ratings and even read reviews. Once you've narrowed down to your final lens choices, I look up some YouTube videos to see if the reviews of these lenses are actually any good. My go-to channels for gear reviews are DP Review, The Camera Store, and Frono's Photo. Hopefully, you found something here that was helpful to you to inform your next lens purchase. If you're stuck on which lens to buy or want some suggestions, feel free to leave a comment and I'd be happy to give you my own input. See you next time.